Welcome everybody to Bugbears and Brews. My name's Brian, and tonight we're doing Encounter Recap number 20 of the Storm King Thunder's campaign. And this one here, we're going in a bit of a different direction. So start off with us talking over the actual meta-wise as a group. Where do we want this campaign to go? When do we want it to wrap up? Because what's going on, with the public play forum that we do, we have a couple other tables that are doing the same storyline. And so what we'd like to do at the end of each campaign is to take all the tables and mix them up, and that way people are playing with people they haven't played with before. We try to keep some players together that request, I want to be with this person, I want to be with that person. Try to accommodate those, but also introduce people to new players there. So one table's finishing up the Storm King Thunder campaign next week. The other table doing it is looking to be late July, early August, so we can realistically wrap up whenever we wanted. So we decided we'll just go ahead and go for the late July time frame. However, I don't want to say we're completely abandoning the Storm King Thunder campaign, but talking with everybody, there was a much more invested interest in the Brumi storyline. So for the time being, we are shifting gears from the from the Storm King Thunder campaign to the Brumi storyline. There's probably going to be still some elements of giants in there still. The main thing too is, you guys made this decision in knowing that Eleni will be involved at some point in that storyline, and you guys really think she deserves to die. So that was the big selling point for you guys, because you really like the Brumi character. Everybody loves Brumi. Brumi's good fun, but you also really dislike Eleni. So this way you get to, help Brumi out and still kill Eleni. Win-win, right? We like that. After the serious discussion was had, we decided, let's start gearing up in Nightstone. So we returned from the dirt poor town in the middle of the desert, went to Nightstone. All of them got kind of patched up a bit. Brumi, she was outfitted a bit better, not 100% like super awesome, but she's got some better gear now. She has her venom or dagger of venom going on that you guys decided she's the one that's going to get that, since she normally rocks a light crossbow and a dagger. And Britches has some awesome barding going on. He has a sweet new imperialistic haircut type deal for a donkey. Kind of, I think I described it as like the centurion type look from like the horses back in the Greek era. And then we did our goodbyes and loose ends, those kinds of things in Nightstone. So we said goodbye once again to Vander. Vander once again said, whatever, I didn't even realize you guys were still here. Get lost. And pretty much that whole manner, not even like nicely about that. That's about what he said. Moog is staying behind just due to she's now that she knows she's pregnant, she doesn't want to go out and venturing as much. So she's going to stay, kind of protect Nightstone. She has a nice house already built out. Brumi is obviously going with you guys to the Shadowfell. The scribe that was watching Brumi during the time when you guys were gone for that week really isn't happy with the situation, but there's not much she can do. Aldvin is returning to Waterdeep, but he has agreed to supply you with a way to the Shadowfell, since you guys aren't going to be going after the Shadowflame Keep. He said he could do this, but he does need you to give him a couple things while you're in the Shadowfell. So he does need the canine teeth of an alpha Shadowhound, the tentacles of a dark mantle hive queen, and then a purple night butterfly. So he asked for those three things in return for the trip to the Shadowfell. He gave you a safe journey to an area which would via airship, an area that you would not be interjecting yourself into the Shadowfell in some sort of crazy environment. He also gave you a scroll of planar shift that would bring you back to that same starting area where you were. You only have one of those though, so it's like an emergency get out of jail card. He gave you 3 sticks of instant magic because he knows how much you love instant magic. And then he gave you a so accurate map of the Shadowfell. As accurate as it can be. Shadowfell is constantly changing, and what was once there is no longer there, or the distance between things are really shortened or made much longer, so it's really hard to tell. It's hard to make an accurate map of the Shadowfell. So he's got, it's a general idea of the Shadowfell. From there, you guys actually went into the Shadowfell, and once there, you guys wanted to start getting Brumi a bit more acclimated to the role she'll be taking. So once again, Brumi is a Shadowheart Kai princess, and so you want to kind of get her into that whole feeling like a princess role, even though it's not what she's used to. You know, she spent the past 3-4 years as, or probably like 3 years as a indentured servant type deal to Eleni. So you know, you're like, hey, Broom, you want to play princess? And she got to choose where you guys were going, got to give orders, a couple other fun things here, and she really took to it duck like water. You know, went right into it, and Havoc, I think by the end of it, wasn't exactly really fond of the game. Grimlock, while Mark playing Grimlock understood what we're doing, Grimlock himself did not, and was really confused. Especially when during one of the rests, Brumi got to choose the spot where you guys were going to lay down for the night, and she picked a spot that Grimlock clearly understood was not as advantageous for resting. It wasn't badly picked or poorly picked, it just wasn't the most ideal spot. Grimlock, you know, said, oh, we pass a better spot right down this way. Brumi said, no, this is where Brumi says we're going to sleep, so this is where we're going to sleep. Other thing, before you went into the Shadowfell, you did get some, you guys asked a couple things, you know, like general climb, you know, what kind of creatures are you going to hit, how are the locals, you know, your basics of the Shadowfell, so you guys have pretty good understanding of the Shadowfell. There wasn't anything that you covered that you wanted to ask. We can just retcon and say you asked about this ahead of time, and so you got a good idea of it. Like I said, it's just basic stuff, though. You can't go like, oh, who's the... who lives in this building right here? You can't ask that kind of stuff there. But when it comes down to what's like local governance like, you can kind of get a vague idea what kind of ancient... Apologize about the horn there. It's one of my neighbors. You know, what kind of ancient societies are around, those kinds of things there. You could get that information. I think I actually gave the ancient society one there. Speaking of the nighttime, going back to the game itself, during the nighttime, you've been in the Shadowfell for 2 nights so far, and in the nighttime, what was going on is you were having visitors. These visitors, you couldn't quite make out what they were. They were almost like bullet tracers, like going all over the place, and you'd see them. Inigo, looking up with his detect magic, saw that they were clearly magical. Everything in the Shadowfell is emanating some sort of magical aura, a bit different than what's used to on like the material plane, but these creatures clearly are a bit more above that aura there. And I will say, out of the tracers, 2 of the tracers were blue, 1 were green, and at one point, was it Inigo? No, it was Pavik. Pavik actually caught a glimpse of one of these things as it was stopping for just a quick second, right as it was getting out of glance. And he did mention that it's kind of serpentine with some wings there, but he couldn't get a good sizing on it. He's, you know, guessing it's probably no bigger than his bicep. Lengthwise, he couldn't, you know, couldn't get a full grasp of how long it was, but he's guessing probably 10-ish feet. You know, hard to say. It could be longer than that, though. So those things appeared both nights. They kept on flying over you guys, random patterns, non-stop, or not non-stop, but like they do a random pattern, they go away for like 2 minutes, then they do another pattern. I'm saying pattern, but like clearly they're not going the same pattern. They were just going in different directions each time, so completely random. That's what I'm getting at there. You guys going to pick up any sort of patterns behind it? They are clearly intelligent creatures, though, because Inigo did message and try to communicate with one of it, and it paused for just a minute, turned around, looked at Inigo, and then went back. Now, on top of this, during the nighttime, Brumi was having nightmares. The first night, you guys didn't think much of it. Second night, Thessalon went inside Brumi's mind and tried to get a better understanding of the nightmare, and the nightmare it was the part that he caught. She was inside like a feast hall. They were getting ready to eat some delicious dog from the looks of it, and they heard a crash coming through the door. Next thing you know, Brumi's underneath the table and underneath the tablecloth, and that's where it started to transition from the tablecloth to her folding sheets for Eleni, and then from there, Brumi, something in Brumi internally, whether Brumi's doing it actively or there's some sort of protection there, started forcing Thessalon out, and Thessalon had to get out before his mind got, I don't want to say corrupted or purged or whatever, but something was obviously pushing back with force that Thessalon has never had experience with for as much as time as he's spent mind fucking people. From there, the only other main thing that happened in the Shadowfell thus far was you guys got attacked by some Shadowhounds. These are not, none of them were alphas, but they were a bit of a pain in the ass, and they had these mandibles that would come out from their jaws and start smacking you around, and they'd gnaw on you, and you'd try to hit one, and you'd go, and it would be in one spot and then the other. In that fight in general, I will say, and Mark called it, he was joking around when I busted out the miniatures. Like, oh, he did this because he didn't have a Displacer Beast miniature. I had a Displacer Beast miniature, but yeah, these things were really just reskinned Displacer Beasts. And I told you guys that at the table afterward too, because I was joking around how Mark kind of called that out on me, even though it was a completely random guess. It was pretty funny that it happened. The combat itself, I thought it was a pretty good intro to Shadowfell type creatures that you'll be encountering. Things are a little bit harder to hit. They're not quite what they seem. The situation started off with two of the Shadowhounds, and then at the end of the first round, 2 more joined. So you're dealing with these creatures were clearly intelligent. So even though they're houndy dog type, they're showing some intelligence there with delay tactics, and they waited actually until Nivara stepped away from the group and tried to get into a good range spot, and then they pincer attacked Nivara, and then once Nivara went away, they actually started attacking Britches. Britches, though, thanks to Britches' awesome barding, survived the attack. Brumi, I will say the next day was a bit more she was wore out from the attack because Pavic was because Brumi was playing Princess. Pavic had her on his shoulders, and so she was fighting the whole time to stay up top and away from the dogs and that kind of thing, and she was really stressed out about that. So Brumi wasn't so much up to playing Princess the following day. And that's where we left off. We were heading towards the town that we were in, so we went through the woods. We were in the middle of the woods, and we actually left off with an encounter. And I will say to give a little preface into the encounter, little sneak peek here. The main thing is you see a man on the road, and the man on the road is looking very blank-faced, very just not sure what's going on, just taking things in. He definitely does not look like somebody from the material plane. He's got that kind of tingy shadowness to him that you heard about. I will say he's definitely humanoid, though. So he's not tiefling. He's either like an elf or a human or a half-elf, one of those types of races, though. But he's just kind of looking around. He's standing in the middle of the road, just kind of taking it all in, just not sure what's going on. So that's where we wrapped up. I'm really excited. I will say, as much as I've enjoyed the Storm King Thunder aspects, and I know I mentioned this during our talk at the table, I think you guys have always enjoyed the stuff that I made up more than what's in the book. And I think part of that is because since I'm not worried about spinning you guys onto a certain plot hook and just letting you guys take the story where it goes, I'm a little bit more free and flexible with those things. And so the fact that we're kind of stepping away from the Storm King Thunder storyline for the moment and kind of going off into the side shot stuff, I'm really excited for it because I feel as a DM I have a little bit more freedom there, and you guys find it more enjoyable with that freedom. So the fact that we're going that way really has me excited. So looking forward to the game coming up here on Wednesday. I already have some, as I look at my imaginary watch that's not on my wrist right now, already got some good things cooked up for the next bit. I did my map of the Shadowfell over the weekend. I'm going to do Brumi stats maybe right after this, maybe tomorrow during my lunch break at work. Who knows? So talk to you later, guys. See ya. Bye.